Welcome to Delaney Diamond Presents an Author Chat, where we interview authors about their books, writing process, and personal lives. This show is sponsored by the Delaney Diamond Readers Lounge, an online community of readers where we bond over great books and support programs that promote literacy and book distribution. To join us, visit DelaneyDiamond.com and select the Readers Lounge tab.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another book chat. My name is Karen the Reader, and I'm going to be your host this evening for an intimate book chat with Delaney Diamond. Tonight, we are discussing her romantic suspense novels, Until Death and Until Now. And so let's get started. Hi, Delaney. How are you this evening?
I am doing well and very excited. Hi, everybody. Like DL said during our last chat, I'm an author. I love talking about my books, so this is going to be fun for me.
Well, I'm a fan and I love talking about your books, so this is going to be fun for me too. One of the things that I think that as fans, we are often asked is, why should I buy a particular book? And so as an author, how do you answer that question when someone asks if they're considering buying your books? Why should I buy your books?
That is a really good question, because there's so many books, so many authors out there, right? And then on top of that, we have so many ways to entertain ourselves. But why someone should buy my books in particular, I feel like my books are very entertaining. I think that they are a great escape for anyone who's looking to be entertained. For instance, we're talking about my romantic suspense titles tonight, and I feel like they are high octane, they're fast-paced books with romance thrown in. And if you're the type of reader that likes that kind of thing, then I think that you'll enjoy my novels and you'll be entertained. Then, of course, I also have contemporary romance, which is where I started my writing career. And I think that my contemporary romance, they're entertaining as well, but in a different way. It's not the high octane, fast-paced that you would get with the romantic suspense, but they're kind of sexy, although I do mostly vanilla sex, so there's nothing like, I don't think, way out there in my books, but they're still sexy. The heroes love hard, the heroines are all relatable. And I think for, these are couples, I write about couples that I think that you can like, the average reader would like. Sometimes the situations are over the top because a lot of my characters are wealthy. So that's part of the fantasy as far as I'm concerned. And they're fun, and you get to see how the other half lives. And you also get to see how they're just like us, really, just the average person. And I put them through the ringer emotionally, but at the end of the day, you always know you're going to get the HEA no matter what these couples go through. And so if you're looking for that kind of thing, high octane and romantic suspense, sexy but relatable characters, a little bit of fantasy, and of course an HEA at the end of all of that, you would definitely like my books.
And we do. We love every minute of all of that.
Thank you.
What would you tell young Delaney about writing that you've learned in writing the books that you have written up to this point?
So young Delaney didn't even envision being an author, to be honest. It wasn't on my radar in terms of things to do, although I did like to write. I wrote my first romance actually at 14. But I think that one of the things that I've learned as I've been a writer for more than 10 years now is that I've learned not to get caught up in all the advice that's out there, There's so much information. There's other authors giving advice, editors, gurus. So many people have something to say about how we should write. And I think that that can be really overwhelming. And I think that for new writers, it can be so much information to sort through. And if I had to go back and talk to my younger self, I would just tell myself to just find my own way. Like, as far as I'm concerned, all this information is good, but you have to figure out your own method. And that's eventually what I did. I just kind of learned to write, according to my own voice and my own writing style. For instance, I don't pay attention to things like 3-act structure, which is something a lot of people talk about in the craft books or in the seminars, but it's just not something that I've found to be helpful to me. Another thing is plotting, for example. Everyone says you should plot, and I actually tried that for quite a while, but I'm not a plotter. I'm more of a pantser, or what they also call intuitive writer. So I just start the story and then I go from there. I usually have an idea and I start the story and go from there. So for my younger self, I would just say, go ahead and get the information, but don't be overwhelmed, and come to sort things out for myself according to my own style. And that's what I've ended up doing. I just kind of know I want my heroes to be a certain way and my heroines to be a certain way. I want certain things to happen in the story. Even the beginning of the story, I want it to start a certain way. I want to grab the reader attention right from the beginning. So yeah, not getting overwhelmed and just getting caught up in all the information out there is a big one, I think.
I do think that's important. I think that writers are writers for a reason and should listen to their voice. Like, your inner voice is telling you, you got this. So that being said, though, how do you deal when you get critique of your work, like negative reviews or folks saying stuff that they don't like about your work?
Okay, so I have a different point of view than some other authors, because I know some authors like to read negative reviews because they feel like it'll help them improve. Or, for example, if they get a 1 or 2 star review, they say, well, why did you give me that? They want to know the reasons. And I really have stopped reading negative reviews. I stopped that years ago. One, because they just bummed me out. They make me feel terrible about my writing. So I stopped reading them for that reason. But also, I just came to the realization that what I'm doing is an art form. It's like writing and visual arts. Those are all arts, and because it's an art, it's different people have different opinions about them. It's, their opinions are subjective, and it's often based on things that have happened in their own lives, their own experiences or whatever, and that influences different people's opinions. And so I've just kind of learned not to pay that much attention to negative reviews. I really like reading the positive reviews. Those make me feel better. Sometimes I'll save them when I'm feeling stuck about a story. Occasionally, I might look at a negative review, like accidentally see it, or I'll see a 1 star and go, I wonder why they gave me the 1 star, and look at it. But in general, I really just don't look at them, because at the end of the day, I don't feel like I'm writing for that person. I feel like I'm writing for the people that like the way that I write. And doing it for so long, like I said, I've just kind of learned that I don't get that much out of the 1 and 2 star reviews. I'll give you an example. This is how I came to the realization that it's all subjective, and it's just kind of hard to beat yourself up and try to please everybody, essentially. Years ago, when I published A Hard Man to Love, which is part of my Hawthorne family series. And I remember like reading these reviews, and I got 2 really different reviews about the same thing. Basically, the 5-star review was saying that the heroine was strong and she held out against the hero. And then the 1-star review said the heroine gave in too easily. And I just thought, it's the same book, right? And they're talking about the same thing, but they had two completely different opinions about what happened. And it dawned on me that it just doesn't make sense to try to please everyone. There are people, of course, who, they put out a book and they might get all 4 and 5-star reviews, but I don't write like that. I generally do get negative reviews, and I just accept it. I'm just not the author for that person. I write for the people that like my writing style, if that makes sense.
It makes absolutely perfect sense. One of the listeners asked, have you ever saved a really positive and uplifting review to use as an inspiration on tough days?
Oh, yeah. I save them all the time. Like, I even save emails that I get from readers. If someone sends me a really nice email, or they say something like, I just joined your newsletter list, I love your books, or the other day someone just discovered the Brooks family, for example, and they were telling me how much they enjoyed the stories. And I have a folder that I keep in my email. It's called Kudos. And it's just all the emails that I get when people say positive things, because, sometimes you do feel kind of like, if you're having a rough day or the words aren't coming or something like that, it's just nice to look at those and they give you a little boost. Same thing with the reviews that I see on Amazon or Goodreads or Apple or wherever. If I get positive reviews and they're telling me all the things that, or, well, I shouldn't say telling me, because I don't think that reviews are for the author. I think that reviews are really for fellow readers. So it's readers talking to readers about what they like or don't like about a story. But if I see them and I like the review, I'll save it. And I have, like, inside the folder, say for example, for Until Now, I'll have a Word document and I'll just paste them in there. And I don't just save them to read. I mean, I use them in promotions as well. I'll also, like, share them on social media or something like that. I got a recommendation just today on BookBub from someone who read my box set, the Love Unexpected box set, and they liked the 3 stories in there. And so I just did a screenshot and I'm going to share it on social media. So even though I don't read the negative reviews, I read every single one of the positive reviews. I love them. They're like a shot of adrenaline, really.
And honestly, I think that that's probably a much healthier take. And I agree with Tammy in the chat, who says, I know I'm going to love whatever Delaney Diamond writes. So when I hear a book is coming, I just pre-order. She's not reading the reviews either.
Thank you, Tammy. See, I need something like that. I'll screenshot and save it for later.
Exactly. Well, speaking of reviews, what if you were to write a review? What behavior or traits turn you off from a heroine when you're reading another author's books?
Well, first of all, I feel like heroines get a bad rap. Like, the hero could do just about anything and we'll forgive him and love him still, but heroines kind of have a tough time. And I feel like we can sometimes be a little hard on the heroines. So in general, there's not like a whole lot that'll turn me off on a heroine or cause me to have, like a negative feeling in someone else's book. In fact, sometimes I like when people screw up because it just makes it more interesting. You go, oh my God, how's she going to get out of this mess? Why did she do that? It gets you worked up, right? But I think that for me, the one thing that I can say that I don't particularly like is helpless heroines. I feel like,
get a spine, get a backbone.
yes. Man up, or woman up, I guess.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can just see the girl from the TikTok. Yes.
Yeah, stand up, right? The TikTok girl, like, stand up. Yeah, I don't like when heroines are helpless or weak or that kind of thing. And that's not to say that I don't like to see the hero rescue them, because I do like that kind of stuff. But I still like to see the heroine able to handle herself and take care of herself. And so usually when I write a story, even though I'd have the hero being heroic and being the savior a lot of times, she also can do a little thing herself. Like I tried to do that in Almost Perfect, which is the last romantic suspense in the same series. The heroine was a cat burglar. And so even though Hunter was stronger and could, was used to guns and all this kind of stuff, she was still hanging with him. She was jumping off roofs and all this kind of stuff. And then it's specific to Until Now and Until Death, since that's the stories we're going to be talking about tonight. One of the things that I tried to do in, let me see, it was the second book, it was Until Death. There was a situation where Shanice was in the woods with some of the operatives, and this guy came out of nowhere and attacked the guy who was sort of like escorting her through the woods. Mm-hmm. And his name was Bo, and he got the drop on Bo, basically, and he had him down, had a knife at his face and all of that. And normally Shanice, she's not a fighter. She's a little goody two shoes. She grew up in like almost an idyllic family life. So all of this is different and foreign to her. But she learned to use a gun, and at that moment, she had to make a decision, because he was like, shoot him. Bo was yelling at her to shoot him. And she could have chickened out. She could have run. She could have totally screwed up. And I don't know, have you ever shot a gun before? Have you ever fired a gun?
I have, yes.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, it's really jarring. Like, the kickback, on it. Mm-hmm. And then of course it's just so loud. And so I kind of put myself in her place when I wrote that scene, how she would be feeling, because it's a little intimidating. And then you're expected to kill somebody. That's pretty scary if you're not used to it. But she did it, she overcame her fear. She overcame the fear that she might accidentally shoot Bo, and she got the bad guy. And so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, I didn't want her to just crumble and fall apart. Yes, she was scared, but she pushed through, and she wasn't a totally helpless person. So that's the kind of thing I like to see.
And actually, in my opinion, she showed that trait from the very beginning. Like, she showed that she was resourceful and could take care of herself, because the fact that she even moved herself from a position of danger to the new city was completely, that's not something everybody would have done. The fact that she kind of put herself in a position to be her own savior, because she wasn't looking for somebody to come save her.
Right. And I think that's kind of important, even though I like the idea of being saved, but it's also nice when you can do something for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's switch gears a little bit. One of the, we have a lot going on in the world right now. It's a dumpster fire, if you want to be completely honest.
It is. I saw just today. I saw the UK Prime Minister. I think he resigned.
Exactly. Yes, he did. Like, it is a whole dumpster fire. Every other person that has COVID or just got over it. Every the ozone layer. We forgot even worried about. Basic stuff. We are dealing with catastrophic things at this point. If you could snap your fingers and get rid of one of the world's problems, what problem would you eliminate?
So that is a tough one because we do have some problems going on. We got some things going on here in the United States that I never thought I would see again coming around. But I would say one of the things that always strikes me, I guess, is that there's so much poverty in the world and there doesn't need to be. There are people, so many people suffering without the basic necessities, and they don't have to be. So if I could snap my finger and get rid of a problem, it would be poverty, to be honest, because I feel like it causes a lot of the world's problems. Um, there's a homeless crisis. People are hungry, going to bed hungry. Some people don't have enough clothes. And crime would be lower if we got rid of poverty. And I'm not even saying that everyone should be upper middle class or anything like that. I just think that everyone should be able to survive and have the necessities for life and be comfortable. And if we can eliminate poverty, it would be so much better in this world, I think.
Absolutely. There are lots of problems, like you said, and poverty is a good one to eliminate, especially because there are people in the world who literally, like one person, and there's not just one person like this, because there's several of them, who have the own personal fortune to actually be able to do it and choose not to. And that's the part to me that's shocking, is the number of people that have the ability, they personally have the ability to eliminate homelessness or to eliminate hunger, and they choose not to. They choose to do other things that are, quite frankly, not serving the world in a positive way.
Right. And I think that we see it. Sometimes I'll hear people say, "Oh, if X amount of $1 billion would be able to wipe out homelessness or something like that," and or X amount of million, and it's just like, we could do this, guys. We could literally do this. We should not have hungry people in this country or anywhere else in the world, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really terrible that there's so many people who have so much. Like, do you really need another house? Do you really need another car when you could be saving a life, So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Or a Birkin bag or a whatever. I mean, and some of it, especially when it's done to excess. It's one thing if you have, to have one house or one luxury car or 2 or 3, whatever. But when people do it to excess, when people collect and have like 40 cars, really?
Right.
What you need 40 cars for? Like,
and the thing is, I don't even want to, I'm not even the kind of person to be in people's pockets. Like, I don't think that we should eat the rich or anything like that. But I do think that if I think that people who are rich could do more, for sure. And you can't take it with you. So why don't you just make the world a better place while you're here? Because, like you said, I mean, you have 40 cars. You can't even drive them all, right? And
exactly.
You can actually help someone. You can make the world a better place. And it's just such an easy thing to do. It's just so simple that I don't know why more people don't do it, because you're hoarding all this cash for what? It's almost like, I don't know, sometimes I feel it's a competition. Oh, I'm the richest man in the world today and I want to hold my spot, or I'm in the top 50 richest people in the world and they don't want to lose their spot. I don't know. It's sad, really.
It is. Some of the folks in the chat are giving out some other suggestions, like they would eliminate hatred and racism. They would eliminate sex trafficking and abuse to women.
Yeah, good ones.
I think,
and I see there's one here: hatred, racism. Let's see. The ones driving this nation makes poverty, homelessness. Yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. Hatred and racism really is the driving force behind a lot of our problems too. Classism, this sort of discriminatory attitude toward people who are different from us, it's definitely a problem. Yeah. sex trafficking, shooting. Those are all good. Yeah.
It is. I think that they're all noble causes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is important that we view our society more like a community and less like a competition. And I think
Yes.
that that's what ends up happening, is that people view it as a competition and they want to win. And if you
Mm-hmm.
view it as a community and you realize that, you know what, if you win, I win. We can all
Yes.
eat. We can
Yes.
all win. There is no there. This it is it is misplaced to think that there are a finite number of winners, because there
Mm-hmm.
aren't. We could all
Mm-hmm.
win.
We can all
Does
win.
that
Exactly.
it just means that the us all winning, that one person doesn't get to lord their success or winning over everyone else. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
way that it's set up now, is that one person or a very few people get to hold their winning over everyone else. And
Yeah.
the rest of the society loses as a result, instead of
Right.
everybody just winning.
I totally agree with you. There's plenty of pie to go around. There's no reason why everyone can't have a slice. So,
Absolutely. Well, that was that was hard, but I think it's important that we talk about these kinds of things, because I think
hmm
that it helps us to change our view of the world. I think it helps to us as we move through the world.
right,
Um,
right.
so let's switch gears again and talk about these books. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, Delaney, so first of all, before we get started, I just want to, if you read the books and you didn't listen to the books, I actually did both. I read
Mm,
and listened,
okay.
but if you only read the books, do yourself a favor, even if you don't like audiobooks, go listen. Go listen. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's awesome. John did a great
Go.
job, didn't he?
He did a fantastic job. And so much so that I have since listened to like 3 other books that he narrated. But
hmm
so I will use a narrator as the reason to buy a book in a minute.
Right,
But
right.
he does a fantastic job. So if you just listen, just read it, go listen. So I'm going to start with there. But let's talk about, as somebody else called them, Crunice.
Crunice, yes.
Let's talk about Cruz and Shanice and these books. Tell us about it. Like, how did you create this world? It's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. So it's so funny because when I decided that I wanted to do romantic suspense, I wasn't sure what angle I was going to choose. I was like, do I want them to be cops? Do I want them to be detectives? Like I really just didn't even know. And eventually I came up with the idea that I would just have them be part of this organization called Plan B, which is a secret government organization that's tasked with protecting the United States. And because I chose that route, it allowed me to do other things that I couldn't if I had to stick within the confines of, say, a cop, romantic suspense, or a lot of times there's, what do you call it, like FBI, CIA, and all that. And I didn't want to be restricted. And I wanted to be able to kind of do some fun things because I watch a lot of thrillers, movies that are thrillers, and then I read a lot of thrillers too. And I wanted to incorporate some of what I enjoyed in that genre into my romantic suspense. So um, Cruz actually came about because in my Johnson Family series, I always sort of talked about this mysterious guy. I never gave him a name, who was able to do all these really cool things. Like he could find anybody. Cyrus Johnson, who is the oldest sibling in the family, he was always calling on this guy to do things like investigate someone or do a background check or whatever. but again, I never gave him a name. I think I eventually gave him a name, and I can't remember which book it was in. It might have been in Good Behavior, which is the last book, or no, actually, it might have been The Rules. But anyway, I eventually gave him a name, but he was never on paper until I did Do-Over, which is in the Brooks family series. And the heroine in that book, she came home and there were people in her house that had broken in, and Cruz was one of the people, his organization, his agency, bodyguard agency, security agency, was hired to protect her and her family. And so it kind of started from there. I wrote him on the page then, this 6'5" Cuban tough guy, just a kind of interesting character. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And so when I decided I was going to go ahead and just do the whole series, I wanted to pair him with someone who was not exactly the same, but who could soften his rough edges, because Cruz is kind of emotionless, and like I said, he's a tough guy. His file says that he's prone to violence, if that gives you any indication. So I wanted him to meet someone who could soften him. Another thing about Cruz is that he never thought that he could have a family, even though he wanted one, because he was kind of like, who's going to want me? I'm a killer, And so being with Shanice, someone who was close to her big Texas family, a goody two-shoes, again, they were opposites, but they worked together because she was exactly what he needed. And I came up with the idea. So like I told you, I don't plot. So I had this idea of Cruz getting close to this woman and then trying to find out if she has some data. He took on another identity. He became Vicente Diaz, an accountant, to get close to her because she was a bookstore clerk. And I did all of that. And then I was like, okay, but what's this data that they're going to be trying to get? And then I remembered this article I read about these cops who were going into this what do you call it, like an apartment building, and harassing the tenants. And they were doing it at the behest of this real estate developer. So they wanted the property. And what they were doing is the cops would go in, harass people, give them tickets. They would do like these raids and quote unquote find drugs and all this kind of stuff. And how they found out about it was this other cop, he was interviewed for the article, and he didn't want to participate in what they were doing. And that became the basis of the story for Cruz and Shanice in Until Now, where you find out that this egomaniac, Randall Logan, is doing basically what the guy was doing in this article that I read. And so that's kind of how the story started coming together in Until Now. And until now, Cruz was still part of Plan B, the secret government organization. In Until Death, he has left because he thinks that Shanice is dead. And it's also the beginnings of you seeing his security agency come to life. Like, he leaves the government work and starts doing security pretty much, full time. Like, that's his business. He hires people and everything. So that's how it came to be. An article, and also just this idea I had of this really cool character that I first introduced in the Johnson Family series. I just didn't have a face or a personality for him yet.
I'm speechless because I mean, like, how do you do that? That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So I think I'm just based off of your description, who was your least favorite character in this book?
Oh, I just said his name, Randall Logan.
I thought you were going to
Yeah,
say.
sure, you knew that that's who I was going to say. Yeah, he was just pretty terrible. Billionaire real estate developer, just mean, evil, greedy. He didn't mind killing people. He didn't mind, forcing people to leave their homes so that he could have the properties. He didn't mind bribery. There was nothing wrong with that. As far as that he was concerned, that was well done. The end justified the means in his book. Just a
Yeah,
terrible
because he was
person.
greedy for no reason. Like,
Yeah, just
for
greedy.
no reason. Like, you already rich, man.
Mm-hmm.
Really? So why do you have to be even more rich? And then off the backs of people who do not have the means to be anywhere else. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
crazy. He was pretty awful. So who was your most favorite? Like, what characters do you enjoy writing the most?
Okay, so I just love writing Cruz. Cruz to me was a lot of fun. Like I said, he's someone that I sort of thought about initially without him being fully formed in my head. I just had an inkling of an idea of what I wanted, but he was just a fascinating character to work on. Coming up with his backstory, being from Cuba, then his work with Plan B, researching some of the skill sets and work that people like spies and assassins do. That was a lot of fun. And then incorporating it into his skill sets. I wanted to give him a high IQ. I wanted him to be great at hand-to-hand combat. Just an all-around great assassin, almost invincible, really. And but I didn't want him to just be this, I guess, robot, this cold character, even though that's the way he comes across initially. I wanted him to be multidimensional. And so that you see the other side of him with his love for Shanice and eventually their son, that he's willing to do anything for them. He literally will give his life for them. And if one of them is in harm's way, he is there to do whatever it takes to rescue them. So he's basically a killer with a soft side. And and in some ways it's funny because when I was writing Until Death, which is where you see more of his soft side, you kind of see it in Until Now when he and Shanice get together. At the end of the book, they go back to Isla Morada, where he has his house, and you see how happy he is with her because he finally has that home life that he wanted. But in Until Death, when he has his son and they get married and all of that, you see a little bit more, but you also see Randall too. There's almost a parallel between him and Randall Logan. The fact that Randall loved his son, Jacob, so much that he wanted to get revenge against Cruz. And then Cruz, and he was just willing to do anything to get that revenge. So they both come across as these cold characters, Randall and Cruz, but then their love for their family, or at least in Randall's case, it's more so his son, Jacob, the one that was like him. But their love for that family member shows you that they're not just this one-dimensional cold character, that there's more to them than that. Although I still think that Randall is terrible, but there's sort of a parallel there between him and Cruz, if you will.
Okay, so you mentioned researching assassins. How do you research assassins? Like, I don't even know what to start with researching assassins.
So for me, research, okay, so I told you, like, I read a lot of thrillers, right? So a lot of times I'll see something in the book, and if I'm not familiar with it, I'll go and look up more information on it. But then there's all these great nonfiction books out there. One of them that I purchased was called Spy Secrets That Can Save Your Life. And that particular book just taught me a lot about things like situational awareness. You'll see that a lot, that the agents in my novels talk about it, because it's such a big thing for people who are spies, or as they call themselves, spooks. So they're always aware of their surroundings. They pay attention to how many exits there are, where the exits are. For example, I showed that in, for example, Heart Stealer, which is the third book in the series, where Raheem is the bodyguard, and they're going on to one of the islands there off the coast of Miami. And before he goes, he knows how to get on and off the island. He looks at he pays attention to how to get on and off the island, where the exits are, just everything on the island. And that comes in handy later when they're in a sticky situation. So it's that kind of stuff. There's another book that I really loved called 100 Deadly Skills. And it just kind of teaches you different skills that spies have, how they evade capture, how they conceal weapons, just all kinds of stuff. So it's all very fun and interesting. I myself could not do it, but it's really fascinating to read about these people and their lives.
Your search history must be insane. I'm just thinking your search history on your computer.
Yeah.
It'll probably, people will be like, Delaney, really? What are you doing?
Yes, it is insane. You would not believe the things I looked up. Again, back to Heart Stealer, for example. But when I was researching that one, there was a scene I was researching, and it was, can bullets penetrate car doors or something like that? It's just that kind of thing. And it's like, if you're looking that up, why are you looking that up? Or it could be one time I looked up how to make a bomb without, what you could do to make something like a bomb, essentially. And I used that which one did I use it in? Until Now, where Shanice was taught by Cruz how to make this bomb. And I say bomb because it's really in quotation marks. It's not a real bomb, but it's a way to make an explosion and a loud bang to sort of scare people. So it's like
right.
Vinegar.
She put it in the bathroom ventilator.
Yeah, she threw it against the wall and it blew up. So it was vinegar and baking soda and some other stuff, I think. But that kind of thing. It's fascinating to learn all of that.
Okay, one of the questions in the chat is, how many years was Cruz in your head waiting to get released to the world?
Oh, I would say so if he started, I would say that he was probably in my head at least 3 years, maybe 4. And that's kind of typical for me, because sometimes I just need things to marinate a little bit. And even though I had him, I would have to see when I wrote Do Over. Let me see when I wrote Do Over, and I can tell you exactly, because Do Over is when he actually appeared on the page. It wasn't just a thought in my head. I'm going to tell you right now how many years. Yep, 4 years, because I wrote Do Over in 2018. So at least 4 years he was in my head.
That is so wild. I agree, G. Pope. Delaney's research is on point. That's what makes her book so unique.
Thank you. I try to get it right.
Yes. And Sharon said, I hope you cleared your search history.
I need to, Sharon. I should before they come busting through my door to arrest me.
Exactly. So speaking of Cruz and Shanice, or Crunice, what makes them work as a couple, in your opinion?
I think what makes them work as a couple is just that they complement each other, to be honest with you. Shanice provided that family life that Cruz was craving. He he needed that because he grew up kind of rough. He grew up poor in Cuba. He wasn't, one of the wealthy Cubans or anything. He grew up poor. He came to this country on a boat with a bunch of other teenagers and things like that. And he had a lot of anger because his father had abandoned him. His mother had died when he was young, and he was very unhappy, and he had a lot of anger issues. And Plan B helped him to channel those anger issues into something more productive. And so with Shanice in his life, she gave him that normalcy that he craved, that family life that he was looking for, that he thought that he couldn't have because of the type of work that he did. I like to think that, sure, he saved her life in the book, but she also saved his in a way. She gave him a home. In the book, he says, I think it was the second one, Until Death, he says that she is his home. Having her and his son, that's his home. And she gave him love, a son, all the things that he wanted. And that's why they work. They just complement each other. And for her part too, he provided, she's kind of a goody two shoes, doesn't like to rock the boat. So he provided that strength that she needs. There's a scene in Until Death where she's getting the runaround from the landlord about doing some work on the house that she's renting, the house she was renting before Cruz came back into her life. And when Cruz found out, he was not happy, and he got on the phone and he handled it. And the landlord was like, okay, I'm going to get out there right away. And it's that kind of thing where, they work because they have different personalities that mesh together really well.
I agree. I think you did a really good job of, when she was not with him, she kind of displayed those weaknesses. She, didn't stick up for herself, or she might let people kind of push her around. But when she was with him, even like in the very beginning, when they were running away from the folks that broke into the house that she was staying with her boss in, she got a backbone, even when it wasn't for her, but for any situation that she was in. Even as far as, and I posted this in the on the forum the other day, when you asked about what our favorite scenes were, and I was like, this isn't my favorite scene, but it was so funny, the scene where she jumps out the window. And the fact that she did that, I feel like she wouldn't have done that if he wasn't around. Like, he gave her that kind of energy to feed off of.
Yeah. They definitely complemented each other. And I don't know if you remember too, when they went to Texas, and he didn't want her to go to Logan Investors building. He wanted to talk her out of it. But
exactly,
she said, she was like, no, I'm going.
She wanted to be part of the team.
She wanted to be part of the team. Sure did. So it gave her some strength to be around him. Definitely.
I'm going to ask about a specific scene, and why you picked this as kind of the catalyst, I guess, for Cruz to stay, to go after his son's stuffed animal. I was just like, oh my God, this is such a crazy thing. Like, who is going to go after a stuffed animal? But then at the end, I was just like, oh, my poor little heart, I can't take it.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure how that came into my head, because sometimes, things just come to you and you just think, yeah, this is going to work. Like when you asked me at the beginning of the interview about why people should read my books, this is one of the reasons why I think people would like reading my books. It's the whole over the top, the fantasy aspect of it. The fact that this man, he wanted to be the opposite of what his father was. His father didn't keep his promises. He was not affectionate. He was not present in his life. because he was going back and forth to Russia to get goods to sell on the black market in Cuba. And he wasn't a good father, and eventually he abandoned him because he told Cruz that he would send for Cruz and his mother, and he never did. And so Cruz grew up, like I said, he grew up poor and all that. Cruz did not want to be the type of father that his father was to him. So when his son asked him I think he said that he wanted to get Mr. Cuddles, which was the little stuffed animal, the alligator. And Cruz promised him, he said, I'm going to get that back for you. And when I wrote that, I was like, he's going to have to get that back because his son is depending on him. Cruz wants to keep his word. He does not want to be like his father. And so, of course, this whole place is about to blow up. And this man, everybody's gone. And this man is in there looking for this freaking stuffed animal just so that he could keep the promise to his son, Alex. And I don't know. I just loved the thought of somebody doing anything, even something so small, because he could have bought another alligator. I mean, just know
he could have bought 100 alligators.
100 alligators. But he had to have that one, and he had to have that one because that was his son's, and he promised him he was going to get it for him. And Cruz is the kind of guy, like I said, it's almost like he's invincible. This man can do almost anything. He was going to get that dang Mr. Cuddles regardless. So that's why I wrote it. I just thought that it was just a perfect example of the type of person he is, the type of father he is, the type of father he does not want to be. He doesn't want to be like his dad was.
Exactly. I thought that it was super touching. In the moment, like as I'm listening and reading it, I felt like, what? He is not about to run back into this building for this dumb alligator. But then as you understand like his relationship with his son and why he felt that way, I absolutely get it. I get that that's why he wanted.
Shanice was like, Shanice had your reaction, remember, at the hospital.
Like, you better not.
She's like, I can't believe you did that. You crazy. And he shut her down real quick. I told him I was going to get it, and I was going to get it.
But I definitely think it adds, Alice James mentions that he was such an excellent father. It gave him a touch of humanity. It gave him, I don't know, it was just the icing on top of the cake. Like, really, like what you needed to be that, that extra special dude in somebody's life. And I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments here, and Kelly says it wouldn't have been the same, and it wouldn't have if he'd gotten any old stuffed animal.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he was keeping a promise to his son. Someone says he's just a stand-up guy to me as a man, a father, and he's about his business. Awesome touch to his character. Thank you. Yeah. That's just the kind of person that he was, and he was gonna do what he promised, especially for his son. There's no way that he was not gonna keep his promise to his kid. And I see a question here from Alicia. Was Shanice introduced in another story? No, she was not. She was a completely new character when I wrote her in Until Now.
So while we're talking about new characters, and you mentioned it briefly, is it Heart Stealer? Is the next book in the series. Correct. What other characters do we have to look forward to?
Okay, so pretty much everyone on the Plan B team is going to get a story. There's Alyssa, who is she's from the Virgin Islands, which is where I'm from. So I'm going to try to write a little bit about my island where I'm from, St. Thomas, in her story. But she's the one who can drive any car or boat. If you need an escape artist, Alyssa's the one for you. There's also Kinsey, aka Mouse. Everyone calls her Mouse because she's so tiny. But she's the sniper. She's going to get a love interest. I haven't quite figured hers out, but I know who Alyssa's love interest is, and I'm sure everyone knows who it is after they read Almost Perfect. Let's see, who else? There's, Sanchez, the Mexican guy. He's definitely going to get a story as well. And Miles, he wasn't in the last book, Almost Perfect, but he was in the first 3. He's now working, I think he works in Homeland Security, if I remember correctly. And he's now their liaison with the White House. And he's definitely going to get his own story too. Because I get it. He lost his wife because she left him because of the job. So I gotta get Miles happy again.
Yes,
and so
definitely.
far,
And
go ahead.
the reaction though, as soon as you said that everyone in Plan B was getting their own book, is the chat has just blown up. Like, bring that book on, Delaney. We need them ASAP. Yes. Bring the new book soon. Win. So all the things, they're looking for ETAs. They want to know, like, when can we expect the books?
That's great. Now I can tell you this. Alyssa's book is probably going to come in January of next year, January or February. I'm not sure yet. Because initially I was going to write her story this fall, but I decided that I'm going to write another contemporary book this fall. So I'm putting hers off until later. But there'll be my goal is to write 2 of each book every year. So 2 contemporary romance and 2 romantic suspense. Doesn't always work out that way because, like I said, this year it'll be 3 contemporary, and I only had the one Almost Perfect this year from the romantic suspense series. But next year I should be able to do 2. Okay. Someone said that's a long wait. I'm so sorry. It'll be worth it, I promise.
They're piling on, explaining that it'll be worth the wait. It'll be worth it, I promise. So does anybody else have any other questions? If you have questions that you'd like for me to ask Delaney, then I will be happy to just put them in the chat. I don't think I mentioned that early on, that if you had questions, we would be checking the chat and asking any questions. In the meantime, though, I do have one other question regarding just your character development. Like, is there things that you put in the characters that you get from the people in your life?
No, not really, to be honest. I don't, well, let me back up. There have been things that I've pulled in or that have given me ideas. This is not related to this particular series, but with the Brooks, for example, the first book, A Passionate Love, it's a story about a woman, the heroine is rich, the guy's not so rich. He's, just more middle class, upper middle class maybe. But she's very wealthy, and they kind of bump heads. And the idea for that story actually came from a conversation I was having with one of my guy friends. Because he kind of had a little bit of issue, like he was just talking about how sometimes men have problems with their wives or girlfriends making more money than they do. And it kind of gave me the idea to use that as a point of conflict in that story. So there's things like that, like just conversations that I've had with friends. As far as incorporating specific characteristics, I can't say that I really do, because I try. People always tell me, oh, you can write about me in your book. And I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to do that, because I don't need the drama in my life. But,
somebody else specifically asked, how did you come up with the characters in Private Acts?
the characters in private acts. Ooh, let's see. Well, so Miguel he's an artist. My sister is an artist, and so she kind of helped me with the artistic aspects of his work. But the idea for the heroine, I can't even think of her name right now. The idea for her was actually a dream of mine. This idea of traveling around the world and just kind of doing your own thing. That's where I came up with the idea, because it was something that I wanted to do. So I gave her the opportunity to do that. So I lived vicariously through her. Samira, that's her name. I lived vicariously through her. So I wrote the story of this woman just kind of, going around and living her life and traveling around. And she's cooking her way around the world, essentially. And so that's where their ideas came from. The artistic aspect was, like I said, from my sister. And Ecuador was also a place that I wanted to visit, because I'd always read that it was a great place to retire, and there were a lot of expats there. And so I just kind of said, I'm gonna base this in Ecuador. And I actually got the opportunity to go, and it is a beautiful, beautiful country. I was able to visit Cuenca, just like in the book, and I would love to go back again and visit another time. It's just a really beautiful place. The people are very nice. The food is delicious. I just had no complaints. I didn't eat guinea pig, though, which is a delicacy there. I did not eat that. But otherwise, I enjoyed a lot of the food.
I can highly understand why you would not eat guinea pig. But
yeah, I had to hard pass on that one.
Somebody else asks, are you doing a Christmas book this year?
I am not doing a Christmas book this year, but it is something that I've thought about doing, because I know a lot of authors do it. It's just, to be honest with you, a lot of times around the holidays, it's my downtime. And so I would have to, normally when like you write a book, you want to have time to promote it. And so around the holidays is when I usually take off, and it would be hard to promote it and stuff like that. So I could probably do it if I really pushed myself, but I kind of like to take a break once a year for a few weeks, just to sort of recharge and think about what I've done over the course of the year, what I need to improve on, what worked, what didn't work, that kind of thing.
Okay, well-deserved time off. Someone else asked, do you have a title for the next book to be released?
If they're talking about the next book to be released in the romantic suspense series, I do not yet. But the contemporary book that I'm going to release, this is going to be Audra, which is the sister to Ethan and Monica.
Okay. Have you ever thought about making a movie from one of your books?
I would love to make movies of my books. Love it. Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. And if anyone listening to this podcast later would like to approach me and ask me about getting the rights to make movies, I would gladly consider it. But, I have an agent right now who is shopping, my books for me, the books that I've already completed. So who knows? Maybe something could come of that. I would love, love, love to see one of the romantic suspense on the screen, just to see somebody bring to life all the crazy things that I write about, the explosions, the car chases, all of that. I would love to see that happen on screen. And I think I would really love to see the Johnson family on screen, to be honest with you. It's my most popular series. When I finished it, I felt like I don't know, like I had lost my family or something. I got very attached to them. And so it would be nice to see them on screen as well. And just any of them really, I would be honored and excited and love to see it, because it would be a dream come true, to be honest.
I think your fans and honestly moviegoers everywhere would absolutely love to see the romantic suspense. I think it would be like a Jason Bourne meets, I don't know, what's his
Hmm.
name? 007 and that kind of a movie, which
Yeah, James Bond.
always is, yeah, James Bond. I think it would, those kind of movies always do really well. So I
Hmm.
think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to
Um,
see it.
we have one more question. If you could have tea, coffee, or wine with any of your characters, who and why?
I would love to have, I would love to sit down with Sylvie Johnson. She's so, she's the opposite of me. I'm, I am not that blunt. I am not that, um, she's just such a tough cookie, but she loves really hard. I mean, she loves her family. But I would love to sit down and talk to her because I know I would just have an amazing time and I would learn a lot. Because when I'm writing her, I will just drop these things into these quotes into the conversation, things that Sylvie would say. I call them Sylvieisms in my head, because no one else would dare say these things. Like she would say something like, the people tell you don't judge a book by the cover, but that's poppycock, because everyone judges you by the way you dress. So you need to dress to impress. It makes you feel better. People treat you different when you look good, when your hair is done, yada yada yada. Like she says the things that most people wouldn't say, and and I would just love to sit with her and chat. I think it would be a lot of fun. And plus, she's stinking rich. So that means we wouldn't be sitting and chatting at any old restaurant. It would be somewhere really nice, maybe on her yacht or in her penthouse. I don't know.
Oh, girl.
But it would be a really nice sit down, I think. So that would make it nice.
This is
Someone said
funny.
Sylvie straight, no chaser.
Yes, I
Yes.
was getting ready to read that.
That is Sylvie. Yes, she is. I am not like Sylvie at all. I'm very careful about what I say to people. I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Sylvie does not care about that. She does not care about your feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you this evening.
Okay.
This was so
Thank
much fun.
you. I enjoyed it. Thank you. I'm so glad that you were able to do this with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I do want to
Hmm.
just take a moment to again introduce myself. My name is Karen the Reader. I am a avid reader, and I also write reviews and other bookish things on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Um, you can also follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph as well. And this has been such a joy. And I really appreciate it, Delaney. These books are fantastic. I'm going to once again plug the audiobooks though. I am an audiobook lover, and these were really, really well done. The narrator did a
Oh,
fantastic job.
that is so great. Thank you so much. I do like John's work. Like he does a really good job. Um, and before I go and before we sign off, I just wanted to again thank you and thank everyone who's here, and to just let anyone listening afterward know where they can find me online. You can find me at DelaneyDiamond.com. That's DELANEY Diamond.com. And Delaney Diamond also on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. If you'd like to join the Readers Lounge, to just join us and read the books each month and then participate in the other interviews that I have with other authors, you can just go to my website, DelaneyDiamond.com, and click on the Readers Lounge tab, and we'll let you in so that you can join. And right now, before I forget, because I almost forgot, but I mentioned the Love Unexpected box set earlier, and currently it's 99 cents. So hopefully anyone who's listening to this afterward can take advantage of that deal. It's the first 3 books in the Love Unexpected series: The Blind Date, The Wrong Man, and Unexpected Attraction. It's all interracial romance. And like I said, I got a very nice recommendation on BookBub today. So that was nice to see right before I came on to do the interview. And that is it. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.